Yeah, U.S. soldiers had an encounter back in 2003, August 2003. Two soldiers from Fort Slick took a short trip down Route 66 to Oklahoma and found something they were never supposed to see. This isn't a ghost story, this isn't a movie strip, it's a true military horror caption told years later by soldiers who still can't forget that night. So let's dive into it, shall we?
What it really keeps after dark. So before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel and comment down below where you're watching from. Thanks. 2003, late summer. I was Staff Sergeant Mark Reeves, Field Artillery, Fort Sill. Short leave, needed a breather. The unit was on the grind. New butter bar talking big. Old Top pretending he had the map. We just needed air that didn't smell like gun oil and chow hall bleach. Jimmy Torres said, "Let's see the weird junk on the old road." He had a busted grin and a cheap camera. He always chased dumb stories. Haunted bridges, dead hitchhikers. "We'll get pie," he said. "Maybe a ghost will pay the check." We signed out after lunch. Borrowed an old army jeep from a motor pool friend who owed me. Thing rattled like machine gun fire at idle. Olive drab scratched to hell. Smelled like dust and 20 years of cigarettes. Hood strap frayed, tires bald. The spare looked older than me, but it ran. Good enough. We pointed east, then north, and picked up the mother road like every postcard said. Route 66. It was a sunburn of a highway. Cracked asphalt, red dirt licking both sides. Heat shimmer like water you couldn't drink, mesquite and scrub. Old billboards for motels long dead, neon tubes empty of gas, air conditioned painted on plywood that hadn't seen power in decades. Oklahoma sky so wide it looked bored. We took it slow. Wind in the face, bugs in the teeth. Jimmy called out every roadside relic. "Look at that blue whale. Look at that diner sign. Look at that rusted truck." He filmed it, narrated like he was some TV guy. "Here we see the proud species of dead gas station in its native habitat." He laughed at his own bad jokes. I laughed too. Felt good. Simple. We stopped at a rundown gas station outside Hydro. One pump. No card reader. Bell rang when you pulled in like it was 1960. The sign said, "Larry's," but the paint had bled. The building leaned. The windows were grease and fly bodies. I waited for the pump to cough up a mouse. Inside, it was cooler by a few degrees. Oil cans stacked like a fort. Beef jerky in a jar that had gone dark. One old man behind the counter, thin as barbed wire. Eyes the color of dishwater. He looked past us first, like he was expecting someone. Then he looked at me and got stuck on my name tape. Even in civvies, some habits cling. Maybe it was my haircut. Maybe it was the posture. "You boys out for a ride," he said, not a question. "Couple hours," I said, looking for pie, bad coffee, road music. He nodded like he knew every mile. "You'll see it if you drive at night." He said it quiet, not a threat, not a dare, just a thing he was putting on the counter next to the jerky. "See what?" Jimmy asked, grinning. The old man worked a tooth with his tongue. "You'll see it if you drive at night." He didn't blink, didn't smile, like he was reading a weather report. I counted out cash. He gave us too much change. I put the extra back on the counter. He didn't touch it. He looked at the window. The pump stopped with a clunk like a broken rib. "Road keeps what it wants," he said. We walked out and pretended that was nothing. We were soldiers. We joked when the hair stood up. "Route 66, now with bonus cryptid," Jimmy said. "Maybe it loves pie too." We drove until my neck got stiff. The sun rolled left. Shadows grew longer than they had any right to. We pulled into a motel that tried hard in the 50s and gave up in the 80s. Neon vacancy blinking one letter short. Vacancy Y. I thought of leave forms and laughed to myself. Office had a bell and a glass bowl with mint stuck together. Clerk was a woman with a smoker's voice and a crossword. Checked our IDs like it mattered. Keys on a big fob with a plastic tassel. Room 12, ground floor, end of the row. Outside doors. Ice machine that coughed. We carried our small bags. I had a shaving kit and a book I wasn't reading. Jimmy had a camera, a roll of duct tape, and snacks. We tossed them on the bed. Sheets were thin. Carpet smelled like wet dog and old rain. The air unit rattled. The bathroom fan screamed. The light over the sink buzzed like a hornet. We were tired but wired. We made fun of the art on the wall, a print of a buffalo standing in wheat taller than its hump. The buffalo looked tired too. I said, "Buddy, I know the feeling." We laughed. The day glued to our shirts. We showered and ate at a diner across the road. Meatloaf, gravy that shined, coffee that burned, pie that lied it was homemade and I believed it anyway. Back at the room, we watched a western with the sound low, two old actors moving like bad hips. We started to drift. The air unit hiccuped. The neon outside blinked. The Jeep ticked as it cooled. Before sleep, I thought about the old man at the gas station. "You'll see it if you drive at night." I told myself he meant deer, or weird locals, or idiots, not monsters. Monsters were for kids and drunks. I closed my eyes. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. Then another. Then nothing. We slept. I woke at 2 in the morning without knowing why. No alarm. No noise I could name. Just that sense. The one you get on patrol. Chemical. Your body tugging the leash on your brain. I stared at the ceiling. The light under the curtains pulsed. Neon heartbeat. The air felt wrong, heavy. Like the room had more in it than air. Like someone had exhaled into a paper bag and tied it around my head. I listened. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow. Not the scrambled run of a drunk. Not the quick click of heels. Slow. Heel then toe. Like pacing. Then stopping outside our door. I looked at Jimmy. He was awake, eyes open. He mouthed, "You hear that?" I nodded. We didn't move much. Didn't want the beds to squeak. Old springs tell on you. Something breathed outside the door. Not the soft in and out of a person. Deeper. Wet. Like a dog after a run. You could smell it through the gap under the door. Rust and rain. Copper in the throat. We didn't have rifles. We weren't on post. I had a pocket knife and an attitude. Jimmy had a mag light by the bed. He pointed at it. I nodded. He wrapped his hand around it like a club. The breathing stopped. Footsteps moved to the window. The curtains shivered. The air unit stuttered and caught again. The neon outside flickered hard twice, then settled. Screech, metal on metal. Not nails on chalkboard, deeper. Like a crowbar dragged across a truck bed. It made my fillings ache. It came from the parking lot. From near the Jeep. We moved as one. No talking. We were good at that. Years of field got you synced. I grabbed the door lock, eased it, counted down with my fingers. 3, 2, 1. We cracked it. Cold air slapped our faces. The lot was empty. The neon made the night pink and ugly. We stepped out. The sky was sealed in cloud. The stars gone. The air smelled like wet pennies and turned dirt. My skin felt grainy, the kind of air before a storm. The Jeep sat where we left it. At first I thought the lighting tricked me. Then I saw the gouges. Deep furrows cut down the paint on the hood. 3 together. Another set on the driver's door. Not keys, not drunk keys. These were deep. Like metal had been peeled back by a crow with thumbs. Jimmy shone the mag light. The beam jittered. He didn't say a joke. His mouth was tight. There were muddy tracks near the tires. Not boot prints. Not paw prints I knew. Toes long. Splayed. The kind of print that doesn't belong to anything you want in your life. Water had beaded in them like sweat. A door opened 2 rooms down. Some guy with his shirt off stared at us. "Storm coming," he said, as if that explained our faces. He shut his door. The hallway light blinked. We followed the scratches. They led nowhere. They cut our Jeep and then wandered off toward the highway. The tracks thinned and vanished at the edge of a lot where gravel met the road. The road looked clean. No tire marks. No blood. No gum wrapper. Nothing. Like a mouth wiped clean. We stood there, wide awake now, and cold even though it was August. I tasted rust again and thought of the old man's voice. "You'll see it if you drive at night." Back inside, the room felt smaller, the ceiling lower, the walls thin as paper. Jimmy locked the door. He put a chair under the knob because that's what you do even if it won't do a thing. He turned on the TV, the volume low. Some infomercial preacher moved his hands. His mouth didn't match the words. The signal broke. Snow for a second. Then it came back. We didn't talk big, no chest puff, no macho. We had seen enough real violence to skip the movie lines. We checked the window latch twice. We stacked our boots by the door like we might need to leave fast. Then we lay back on top of the thin blankets. We didn't sleep much. The air unit rattled. The neon kept breathing light under the curtain. Every creak was a footstep, every drip in the bathroom a quiet tap on glass. I dozed and dreamed the Jeep had a spine and something was chewing it. I woke at 4. Nothing outside but a busted Coke machine reflecting the motel sign. At 6, weak light came. Gray. The parking lot went from pink to dull. The clouds eased just enough to show a pale strip in the east. It smelled like long, wet grass. That smell after a night of heavy air, like a field that holds secrets. We walked the lot again. The gouges were real in the daylight. The paint curled up at the edges where metal had been dragged. Under the vehicle, the gravel was churned, like something had sat there, heavy, patient, watching our door. Maybe it's kids, Jimmy said. He didn't believe it. Kids with bear claws, I said. Could be a big dog, he said. Big dog with hands, I said. Then I wished I hadn't. We checked out. The clerk didn't ask about the scratches. Maybe she didn't want to. Maybe she'd seen worse. She slid the key into a drawer like she didn't want it back. On the highway again, the Jeep rattled extra. The wind ran through the gouges and whined. We didn't talk much. The morning was clean, but we carried the weight of 2.5 started sentences. I watched the road. The red dirt. The broken fence posts. The empty fields. Oklahoma looked like a piece of bad advice. Flat and endless and sure of itself. We found a diner by mid-morning. White tile. Chrome stools. A waitress with a pencil tucked behind her ear. Eyes sharp. Smile tired. Name tag said Carol. She had a tattoo on her wrist that looked like an anchor that got smudged. Coffee came in heavy mugs. It was hot and black and plain. We were grateful. The radio behind the counter played country. Real crackle. Weather every 15 minutes. Hotter than yesterday, storms maybe tonight. The window showed a clean sky. Blue like a new bruise. We told ourselves the night was just nerves. Soldiers who sleep shallow. Too much caffeine. Cheap room weirdness. That's the story we picked because it let the eggs go down easy. 2 old guys by the register talked about coyotes going bold this year. One said he'd seen a cat big as a calf. Panther, he said, like the word tasted good. The other shook his head. Government cats, he said. They both laughed. It was a joke and not a joke. We paid and left. We filmed the neon cactus sign that still blinked in the day. We stopped to look at a ghost town. A row of buildings with doors that wouldn't close. A barber pole that had lost its red. Jimmy stood in a doorway and shouted, "Hello?" into the dusty dark. The echo came back like a voice that wanted to sound different and couldn't. We drove slow through a stretch where Route 66 seemed to forget it was a road and turned into a rumor. The asphalt had split. Grass pushed up the seams. The shoulder fell away into scrub. Old bridges had railings you could crumble between your fingers. We crossed one anyway. We were light. We trusted rust like fools. We teased each other again. Easy. Back to normal. I told Jimmy his camera had seen more of America than he had because his eyes were cheap. He told me my driving made his teeth loose. We talked about the unit like guys at a bar. Who was squared away? Who was a mess? Who'd get promoted by accident? We used names that only mattered to us. The scratches on the Jeep felt like a story we could put away. Evidence, sure. But we were alive. We had coffee. The sun was honest again. You can forgive a lot when the light is clean. Somewhere west of El Reno, the radio cut to static. 1 second we were hearing a grain elevator report. Next second it was snow. Then, faint, a tune drifted under the hiss. Old, tinny. A woman singing about love in a car on a summer night. It sounded like a jukebox in a far room. Then it was gone. The radio popped back to normal. The DJ said, "And that's the time. 12 past." Like nothing weird had just pushed through. Jimmy looked at me. "You hear that? Bad signal," I said. "Yeah," he said. He didn't sound convinced. We passed a billboard with a picture of pie so glossy it looked wet. The place it advertised had burned down years back. You could see the foundation in the weeds. We filmed it anyway. We waved at a guy on a tractor. He didn't wave back. Maybe that was a local thing. Maybe he didn't see us. By afternoon, the sky stacked clouds in the west. The edges rolled up like a sleeping dog curling tighter. The light went hard. Shadows sharpened. The air had that before the storm ache. We didn't want to drive into lightning with a Jeep that old. But we had gas. We had time. We had the dumb itch to see one more old sign, one more diner with a name from a song. We'll stop if it gets bad, Jimmy said. That was always the plan. Stop when it gets bad. Guess when that line moves? The road went quiet, like all the cars had pulled off at once. We saw our faces in the windshield. We looked older than we had in the morning. Leave does that. It shows you you're tired. Then it stops. The sign said Lucille's, even though the L was out and it looked like UC Lee's. The building was brick with a flat roof and a glass block front. One corner had a tower like a gas station from a postcard. The pumps out front were dead. Someone had painted them bright once. Now the paint peeled like sunburn. We pulled in. The sky was bruised. Wind started to move across the lot in a steady push. You get that before rain. The kind that makes flags stand out straight. You smell hot dust lift. Inside, a bell over the door gave a tired ring. The place was half lit. A third of the ceiling bulbs were dead. The ones that still burned hummed like angry bees. The chrome on the stools had fingerprints that had turned into history. The floor tile had crackled like old paint. The jukebox in the corner glowed a weak red. It hummed as if something inside was trying to choose a song and never could. One waitress, pale, thin wrists, hair up like she'd done it in a hurry and forgot, apron tied twice around because she had nothing to hang it on. She looked up, saw us, and looked away quick like she'd seen a car wreck in a rear view and didn't want to stare. Sit anywhere, she said, voice soft. Not friendly, not unfriendly, just tired. She brought water without asking. The glass had a chip. The water tasted like coins. Storm will miss us, I said to Jimmy, like I could decide that. He nodded. His eyes were moving around the room, not nervous, just collecting. Soldier eyes. I looked at the photos on the wall, black and white. Route 66 in its Sunday clothes. Cars with fins. People with hats. Women holding milkshakes like trophies. Truckers smiling like they knew a joke the world didn't. One photo stopped me. Two soldiers, boots muddy, grins out of place. One had his arm over the other's shoulders. Their caps were tilted. The caption was handwritten in pencil, faded but there. Reeves and Harlan 52. Reeves, a common name, not a cosmic message. But the hair on my arms moved. The face wasn't mine. Could have been an uncle. Could have been me in a trick mirror. That slow tug in the gut, like a braided rope. The waitress set down coffee. She saw me looking. That wall came with the place, she said. I don't take them down. If I did, folks would say I disrespected something. You got a lot of soldiers through here, I said. She nodded. We do, she said. Her eyes flicked to the window. The sky went from bruised to mean. Thunder walked around out there, not close, not far. A strip of rain cut the fields and moved like smoke. We ordered grilled cheese and fries. Easy food. The heat in the kitchen came on, and the smell was good. Butter and metal and bread. Half the lights went out with a sound like a sigh. The room got smaller. The jukebox hummed louder as if filling the space. A low feedback you felt in the teeth. The waitress came back with the plates. Her hands shook. She put them down careful so the grease didn't slide. I wanted to ask if she was okay. Something in me said, don't make her say it. Road gets loud after sundown, she said. She said it to the table. Folks drive through late. Windows up. Music on. She swallowed. You should leave before sundown, not a plea. Like the old man. Just weather. I looked at Jimmy. He shrugged. But he was serious now. Headlights passed the front windows. A car moved slow in the rain. The glass smeared the light so it looked like a torch drifting underwater. The thunder came closer. It cracked hard over the roof. The building shook. The jukebox hiccuped. The humming changed pitch and then fell back. The neon on the tower outside flickered once, then held. I kept eating. Hunger is gritty like that. I could feel the bread scratch my throat. The coffee had gone lukewarm. It tasted worse. Another car stopped in the lot. Headlights swept the trees beyond the diner. For a second, the beam caught something tall by the far fence. Upright, still. Not a man. Too long in the arms. Too narrow in the waist. Head tilted in a way that made my neck buzz. The light moved on. Another thunder crack. I looked back to the fence. Empty. Nothing but wet weeds. Jimmy saw my eyes. You see that? Yeah, I said. It could be a post, he said. He didn't believe it. The waitress picked up our plates with hands that were too calm. She stood still for a second, listening to something I couldn't hear. You should leave before sundown, she said again. Not louder, just tighter. We paid cash. The register drawer stuck. She yanked it once like she was mad at it for getting old. She gave us change without looking. We said thanks. She said, safe drive. Her voice cracked on safe. The rain hit as we stepped out. Big drops. Cold. The kind that stings your cheeks and finds your collar. The air tasted like iron. The wind went steady like a hand on your back pushing you to the door of a church you didn't want to enter. We jogged to the Jeep. Jimmy stowed the camera in his bag without a word. The engine coughed, then caught. Wipers didn't do much. The glass was a smear. Headlights were a joke. The road was a black ribbon turned into a river. We pulled out and didn't look back at Lucille's until we were on the highway. The tower light blinked once hard. In the red blink, something stood by the fence again. Or maybe it was just a trick of the rain on my eyes. We drove into the storm. The line between day and night got erased. The morning after, the sky took all that rage back like it hadn't meant it. Blue again. Dry heat marching. The ground steamed in small places where the rain had tried to soak in and lost. We found a roadside cafe and parked in a strip of shade the size of a towel. The coffee was better than average. The eggs were eggs. The waitress called me hun and Jimmy sweetheart, and neither of us minded. The TV in the corner ran local news. Flooded ditch on a county road. High school football starting soon. The weather guy sweating through his makeup. We were calm again. That old military pendulum. You get scared. You make a joke. You eat. You look at your gear. You make sure your boots are where you left them. Repeat. My pager beeped. Yeah, pager. We weren't fancy. It was a number I knew from the fort. I found a payphone outside by the vending machines that sold warm Coke. I dialed, punched through a tree of options like a rat in a maze, got the desk, got a short voice. Reeves, you in the area of El Reno, he asked. He knew I was on leave. That didn't matter. Within a roll, I said. Local police requested assistance, he said. Animal attack, they think. We're short-handed with training. You and Torres link up with the deputy. Eyes only. Don't get stupid. If it's a Dan cow, come home. I copy, I said. I didn't ask how he knew where I was. The fort had ways. Or had guessed right. Either way, the line went dead. Jimmy was at the counter peeling a label off a ketchup bottle. I told him. He nodded. He was enlisted. Orders are orders, even when they are suggestions. We stopped for gas, and the clerk said the attacks were near old farms by the interstate. Coyotes got big this year, he said. Or someone let a monkey out. He laughed at his own joke, and it felt like a wrench. We met Deputy Owen Clay in a little cafe with a mural of a buffalo on the wall. He had a mustache that had given up trying. He wore the uniform like he was tired of the weight of it. Looked mid-30s. Eyes set deep. He nodded once at our names. Sat with his back to the wall. Cops and soldiers do that dance without asking. Thanks for coming, he said. I don't like calling the fort for things that should be ours. But folks are scared and the sheriff would rather it be your problem than his. No smile. What are we looking at, I asked. He stirred coffee he wasn't going to drink. Something tore up a truck on a farm road last night. We found the owner, ragged up, but alive. Says he rolled and saw something walking on 2 legs. Then 4. Then 2 again. He watched my face to see if I'd laugh. I didn't. You find tracks? Jimmy asked. Clay nodded. Big, not cat. Not bear. We don't get bear. We plastered a few. Prints, but no pattern. Like it changes weight. He rubbed his forehead. Look, he said, voice dropping. If you see it, don't look it in the eyes. He kept his eyes on the table. It remembers faces. I waited for the wink that would tell me I'd been had. He didn't wink. He didn't push the story like he liked telling it. He put it there and let it sit like a loaded pistol. "Where'd you hear that?" I asked. He tapped his temple. "People talk. Old folks mostly. I don't say I believe it." He took a breath. "I don't say I don't." He pushed back from the table. "Let's move before the sun cooks us stupid." We followed him out of town. The roads narrowed. The fields opened. Windmills that didn't turn stood around like question marks. The sky pulled back so far you could see the curve of it. Dust devils hopped fences like bored kids. We stopped at a roadside cafe for bottled water because the heat hit hard by noon. The clerk lifted his chin in greeting and kept reading his fishing magazine. Clay told us the pickup was north of the old diner we'd been at. Lucille's. He said it like he didn't like that place on the map. "It's just a building," Jimmy said. "Yeah," Clay said. "So's a gallows." We got back in the Jeep. I felt the gouges under my hand when I closed the door. They sang a little when the road vibrated. The memory of that breath outside our room found me again. My shoulder tensed like it had a message. We drove into tall grass and dust and the thin line between duty and a bad idea. We found the pickup by smell first, hot metal and radiator hiss. The truck had been pulled off onto the shoulder and then dragged a few yards into the ditch like a kid pitched a toy. The driver's door was ripped open. The top of the frame had a curl in it like ribbon cut with scissors. The windshield was spidered. There were 3 gouges through the paint that matched the ones on our Jeep like cousins. "Hell," Clay said. He knelt and ran a finger along a gouge, then smelled it like he thought it would tell him anything. He didn't flinch. He stood up slow, looked at me. "You see the prints? In the ditch, the mud was pressed with something heavy. Toes. Long. A heel that seemed wrong. The prints were deep, then shallow, then deep again, like an animal testing the ground. They led into the tall grass. The grass swayed even without wind. The sun hid behind a cloud it had made for the occasion. The light went gray, flat. Radios don't like that kind of light. People don't either. We moved as if we were on patrol even though we weren't. Spaced out, talking low. I had a sidearm from the glove box because I'm that kind of man. Clay had a shotgun he pulled from his cruiser. Jimmy had the mag light and a knife he should have left at home but didn't. The grass closed around us like stained glass in a bad church. You could only see a few feet. I could hear my own breath. I could hear Jimmy's footfalls. Clay's boots made a different note. Somewhere out there, a bird said one sharp syllable and shut up. We found blood. Not much at first. Drops dark and rich and honest, then more. A smear on a weed. A handprint on the side of an old concrete mile marker that had fallen over. The handprint was small, teen-sized. It made my throat go tight. We called out, "Hey!" "Sheriff's office." Answer up. Clay kept his shotgun low but ready. He didn't bluster. He didn't do the movie cop voice. He sounded like a man who hoped not to be ignored. A sound came back that wasn't a voice. It was a cry and a cough. It had fear in it like salt. We moved toward it. The grass thinned. We found a ditch and a culvert. In the dark hole, a shape crouched. It had on a torn leather jacket. Both knees scraped raw. One shoe gone. He held his arm at a bad angle, like his body wanted it somewhere else. 17 maybe, hair plastered, eyes too big. It walked like a man, he said, not bothering with hello. It walked like a man. He said it once, then again, like he only had that one sentence and needed to keep it lit. "We got you," Clay said. Voice steady. He put the shotgun down and kept a hand near it anyway. "Ethan," he said, like he knew him. Maybe he did. Small towns have a limited cast. You alone? The kid nodded too fast, then shook his head, then nodded again. He swallowed. Spit blood. "My uncle," he said. "He told me drive." I drove. Then it was in the road. It was big. It stood up. It put a hand on the hood. He gagged. Clay put a hand on his shoulder. "Don't look at its eyes," the kid said. And I heard the fryer oil in Lucille's pop, heard the old man in the gas station cough, heard all the little warnings stacking up into a wall. We got him out. He leaned on me without shame. He's shaking. Not cold. Shock. He had a cut down his scalp that had matted his hair to his forehead. I pressed a bandage from my kit into it. "Hold," I said. He held like that was the only thing he could do right now. The radio on Clay's shoulder went loud, then dead. Static ate it. A scrap of a song leaked through. Old. That same jukebox woman from the diner. A few seconds of chorus, then nothing. The sky went from gray to mean again, fast, like someone pulled a shade. The wind came hard from the south and brought the smell of wet dirt and copper. We needed to move. We had one injured. We had a storm rolling in like a tank with no brakes. We had the kind of tracks you don't follow if you want to sleep later. We turned back toward the truck. The grass moved at our left like someone dragging a coat. We stopped. The sound stopped. We moved again. The sound paralleled us. My teeth hummed. Eyes front, I said low. No hero turns. We got to the road. The rain started gentle, then not. Fat drops slapping dust into mud. Visibility died. Our vehicles blurred. The kid squeezed my arm hard enough to bruise. A shake moved beyond the cruiser, low and fast, then gone. Nothing human moves like that. Nothing I wanted to see again. Clay looked at the sky. He looked at the field. He looked at the field. He made a choice I would have made. There's an old diner a mile east, he said. Blue Seals. It's solid. Better to shelter there than try for town in this. He had to shout over the rain. Thunder took the sentence and chewed it. We got in the Jeep and the cruiser. We followed Clay's taillights. The water on the road made rivers where there weren't supposed to be any. The wipers smeared. My hand cramped on the wheel. The kid sat in back with Jimmy and breathed through his mouth like trying not to cry. Something ran across the road ahead of Clay. Tall, lean, bent at the wrong time. It didn't look at us. I didn't see a face. I was glad. Our headlights brushed it and it was gone into the ditch. It made the grass lay down. It didn't pop up again. The rain took it like it took everything. Lucille's appeared out of the wash like a ship you don't want to board. The neon didn't try. The tower looked like a tombstone. Clay parked tight to the door. We sprinted. The rain hit like thrown gravel. The world went white in a lightning slap. In that light, on the roof, a shape crouched, long arms, head low. It looked down. I didn't look up again. I got the kid inside. I got the door shut. I felt my hands shaking and decided to ignore it. The jukebox hummed like it was begging for a socket. The lights flickered. We threw the bolt. Thunder rolled across the roof like a bowling ball. The air smelled like grease and fear. The kid said, "It walked like a man," for a third time and then went quiet, as if that sentence had broken in his mouth. The storm picked up its tools and went to work. Clay pulled shades, turned off anything that lit the windows. He spoke in a calm that made me believe him even if he was making it up. We keep low. We keep off the windows. We don't split. We don't shoot unless it's through glass. He looked at me. We nodded. None of us wanted to be the one who fired and brought the world in. The roof creaked. Something heavy shifted its weight. Claws or nails scraped slow on metal. Not a frantic thing. A patient thing that had time and knew we didn't. The jukebox's red glass pulsed. The hum changed like it had a throat and it was clearing it. "Don't look at its eyes," the kid whispered. He clutched the napkin dispenser like it was a relic that would save him. His teeth chattered. His pupils were big. "Ethan," Clay said, using the name like a rope. "Where was your uncle?" "Ran," the kid said. He swallowed. "He ran into the field when we rolled." I told him not. He told me don't look at its eyes. He shook. I couldn't run. My arm. He had guilt sitting on his chest like a sack of feed. We would lift it later if we could. If there was a later. Lightning went off hard and bright. The lights inside blinked. The jukebox clicked. A record arm swung. I saw it in a flash. Old guts had old ways. It settled and the speaker coughed. A warped tune staggered out. That same 50s number. A woman singing like she was in a different room and the walls were water. The song played too slow. Wrong speed. The melody broke downstairs and tried to get up again and fell. "Turn it off," Jimmy said. Clay yanked the plug. The jukebox kept playing for 3 more seconds like it didn't care about wires. Then it died. The room got quiet except for the roof sounds and the rain and my own breath counting wrong. The claws on the roof came closer. A pause over us. A slow drag to the back. A tap as if testing vents. The back wall was cinder block and old wood patched by someone who loved the place and didn't have the right tools. The kitchen was a heat-soaked metal cave. We could see it through the service window. The fryers were off. The pilot lights made small blue eyes. The kid gagged. He was bleeding fresh from the scalp again. I pressed the bandage back. He gritted, did not cry. The sound on the roof moved to the corner and stopped. The rain ran off the edge like beads. Thunder cracked close enough to make the windows bulge. The back door shook once, a single solid thump. Not wind. Wind is wild. This was a knock. Clay raised the shotgun. We froze. A second knock. Lower. The handle twitched like a dog's tail. We didn't answer. The door breathed. Wood swelled in the frame and relaxed. A third knock. Harder. The hinge pins shivered. Move, I said, and we slid into the kitchen. Hot air hit like a hand. The lights in here were worse. One flickered. The rest went steady in that way. Bad lights do right before they die. The thing didn't knock again. It scraped. It pulled nails at the seam with something curved and smart. The sound was worse than the knock because it meant patience. It meant hands. Front room, Clay said. If it comes in back, we shoot it out the front. He had a cop brain. Doorways and fields of fire and where the bodies fall. I had a soldier brain. Cover, angles, what burns. I grabbed 2 road flares from the glove compartment earlier because I was the kind of man who keeps the kit close. I had them in my jacket now. I held one like a saint holds a candle, ready to adore anything that gave me light and heat on my terms. The back wall bulged in at the bottom like a chest taking a breath. Plaster cracked. White dust spit out. A long hand shoved through. Not a paw. Not human either. Fingers longer than they should be. Nails, not nails. More like the caps of bone with old keratin stretched over. Wet hair stuck to the wrist. The smell that came through that hole shut everything else down. Not rot. Not clean. Animal heat and dirt turned, and old pennies and wet dog fed nothing but hunger. The hand flexed. It tested the wood. It drew back. It hit again. It hit again. The crack ran up to the ceiling like a zipper. The jukebox in the front room, dead and unplugged, gave a single hum like it could feel the house change shape. Clay fired once into the floor by the hole, not at the hand. He wanted the noise to mean something. The thing outside paused. Rain filled the pause. Then it hit again. The cinder block shuddered. A pan fell off a hook and clanged and made my jaw lock. The long shape came through, shoulder first. First slick from rain. Black, but not wheat field black. River at night black. Its head ducked under a beam. It was too tall for this world, and the room knew it and shrank. It looked at us without looking at us. I did not meet its eyes. I watched its chest. I saw ribs move like a bellows. I saw a flash of teeth like small knives set in pink meat. It walked like a man until it didn't. It shifted to 4 like lazy water. It moved like it had more joints than we do. It found the floor with a sound that made me think of a cat landing on a piano. Now, I said to nobody and myself, I struck the flare. It spat and then bloomed. White fire with a red heart. The room went another color. Shadows stacked in corners. The thing flinched like a horse. It put a hand up to shield its face the way people do. That wrong human echo twisted my gut. I threw the flare at its feet. It danced back. Not far. Enough to think. Clay fired into the ceiling over its head. Rain, dust, and plaster snow fell. The thing snarled. That sound ripped a strip of your courage and ate it while you watched. It came forward in a blur I didn't follow with eyes. It slapped the shotgun aside as if swatting a fly. It hit Clay across the vest and launched him sideways. He hit the fryer and slid. Breath shot out of him. I got my shoulder into Jimmy and shoved him behind the low counter. The kid crawled under a booth and made himself into a small idea. The creature reached for me like it wanted to make me part of its list. I jabbed the second flare at its snout. I saw eyes then because I had to. Amber, bright as truck markers. Deep like a well. Something in me wanted to fall in. I looked away and missed. The flare slid along its jaw and left a smear of burning stuff that stuck. It howled. Not wolf howl. Not wolf howl. not man scream. Both. The windows bowed inward like a prayer. The jukebox kicked and started that tune again, all by itself, slow and wrong, the needle dragging through the grooves like a boot in sand. Jimmy came up with the mag light like a club and hit it across the wrist hard. He broke the light. He didn't break the wrist. The thing backhanded him. He flew into the front counter and took a nap with his eyes open. Blood hung in the air like a thread. My shoulder burned. I didn't feel it yet. Clay got to his feet with a sound I knew meant he'd tell his chiropractor lies later. He drew his sidearm. He fired twice low into the thing's leg. It staggered. It looked annoyed. It put a hand on the oven door and tore it off like foil. It threw it at us. It hit the wall and stuck there. The pilot flames caught grease that had waited years to do this. Fire climbed a wall of old effort, found paper towels, found curtains, went happy. The heat went up fast. Smoke crawled along the ceiling like a black tide. The sprinkler system, if it had ever existed, didn't. The rain outside was making its own weather, and none of it was helpful in here. The creature hated the fire. It hated the smell. It paced the edge of the heat like a cat hates a vacuum. It wanted us, but not through that. I held a second flare I didn't remember lighting. I held it out like a saint and a monster and felt like an idiot and a believer. Toward the front, I said, "Now." Clay moved first. He grabbed the kid with one arm and a shotgun with the other. He shoved him toward the front door. Jimmy staggered up with the look of a man who had been wrong and pretended he liked the sound. He bled from the scalp, which looks worse than it is until it isn't. I took rear because I was prideful or dumb. The creature feinted left, then went right, then went through the service window like it was a trick it knew. It hit the front room a half step before we did. It crouched on the counter like a gargoyle that had gone wet and mean. The jukebox screeched and skipped. The tune became noise and then words that weren't words. It looked at me because I moved, and I looked at its throat because that's what you do when you don't look at eyes. It tensed. I threw the flare into its mouth because I had no other idea left. It bit down. The flare cracked. Burning stuff sprayed the inside of its muzzle. It howled that too. Human howl again. Spit bright, smoke curled from its teeth like it had eaten a stove and regretted it. Clay fired into the window. Glass blew out. Rain took a punch at the fire and missed most of it. The creature tore at its own mouth and cut itself